I'm Leah Biondo, Interim Executive Vice President for the United States Cattlemen's Association. We're a nationwide group of cow-calf producers, backgrounders, feedlot owners and operators, livestock haulers, and more recently, independent meat processors. 2021 was quite the year. As the nation emerged from the pandemic, we saw the cattle and beef industry really take the spotlight. Check this out.
The committee will come to order. Welcome and thank you for joining us today on this extraordinary and very important and urgent hearing entitled "A Hearing to Review the State of the Livestock Industry."
The Subcommittee on Livestock and Foreign Agriculture will now come to order. The hearing this morning of the subcommittee is the state of beef supply chain, shocks and recovery and rebuilding.
And the hearing will come to order. Today's hearing is on competition and consolidation in America's food supply chain, specifically in the beef industry.
I want to thank members of the committee on both sides of the aisle who have requested that we have this important hearing. We're going to focus specifically on our cattle markets today.
As you can see, the House and the Senate held a record number of hearings this year on how to address the anti-competitive practices that are plaguing our markets, and also to find solutions to increase opportunities for success for our local and regional independent meat processors. At every turn, USCA was there to provide our perspective.
I'm privileged to be here representing cattle producers and independent meat processors across the U.S. This hearing is critical because there is a crisis in rural America. We are losing our producers at an alarming rate, all the while watching big corporate feeders, packers make record profits with the threat of vertical integration hanging over our head.
It wasn't just Congress that got involved, though. This issue was elevated all the way to the White House. Check out this press briefing that happened earlier this year.
So this administration is focused on four major steps. First, strengthening the current regulatory system that we have, our Packers and Stockyards Act. Secondly is to make sure that there's adequate price discovery in the market. Third, we want to make sure that when people go into the grocery store and they see things that are labeled a product of the U.S., we want to make sure that consumers fully understand and appreciate precisely what that means or what it doesn't mean. And finally, expanding processing capacity and maintaining the small and very small processing facilities that are dotting the landscape today.
Perhaps even more surprising, the mainstream media took an interest in the plight of U.S. cattle producers. Check this clip out.
And that trickle-down effect is one reason why about 40% of cattle ranches have disappeared since 1980, which means rural America has lost hundreds of thousands of small family businesses.
I'm wondering whether you're worried about the survival of your business.
Yep. It's a legacy out there, and it's not going to get any easier for these families. It's losing a legacy of the family ranch and stuff.
So now that we have the attention of the White House, Congress, and the American people, how are we going to utilize it? USCA remains committed to pushing forth our key priority issues: marketing and competition reform, truth in labeling, increasing opportunities for independent meat processors, promoting free and fair trade, and decreasing the regulatory barriers that prevent our members from safely and efficiently providing American beef for American plates. Specifically, USCA has worked to push forward the following bills. USCA supports the Cattle Market Transparency Act of 2021, introduced by Senator Deb Fischer of Nebraska, which seeks to accomplish two main goals: ensuring regionally sufficient negotiated cash trade and equipping producers with more information to aid marketing decisions. USCA also supports the Optimizing the Cattle Market Act of 2021, introduced by Representative Vicki Hartzler of Missouri, which is similar to the Cattle Market Transparency Act. USCA also supports Senate Bill 949, also known as the 5014 bill, introduced by Senators Chuck Grassley of Iowa and John Tester of Montana, to require a minimum of 50% of each packing processing plant's weekly volume of beef slaughter to come as a result of purchases made on the open or spot market, defined as those purchases which fall under negotiated purchase. And finally, USCA also encourages senators to consider joining Senators John Tester, Chuck Grassley, and Mike Rounds on a bill that would amend the Packers and Stockyards Act to establish the Office of the Special Investigator for Competition Matters. This bill directs coordination between the U.S. Department of Agriculture, the U.S. Department of Justice, the Federal Commission, and the U.S. Department of Homeland Security. It grants subpoena power to aid in the investigation and prosecution of violators of the Packers and Stockyards Act, and bolsters the legal power of the USDA by maintaining a staff of attorneys and other professionals with relevant experience that can elevate cases of corruption. On labeling, USDA is working to address truthful and transparent labeling on both domestic beef products and alternative proteins. In 2019, USDA submitted a petition rulemaking to USDA's Food Safety Inspection Service requesting a change to the Product of the USA label. In its official response to our petition, FSIS acknowledged that the current regulatory framework, quote, may be causing confusion in the marketplace, end quote, and decided to initiate rulemaking. This was the first major progress since COOL was originally passed in the 2008 Farm Bill, and the first step towards truth in labeling since country of origin labeling was repealed in 2015. Now, several bills have been introduced in Congress that would reestablish truthful and transparent labeling on U.S. beef products. USDA supports the U.S. Beef Act, which prohibits the label of cattle meat or a meat food product of cattle from bearing the phrase "product of the USA" unless such meat or meat food product is exclusively derived from one or more cattle born, raised, and slaughtered within the United States. USDA also supports the American Beef Labeling Act of 2021, which mandates that USDA and the U.S. Trade Representative Office are to establish a mandatory country of origin labeling program for U.S. beef products. If after 1 year they have failed to do that, mandatory country of origin labeling is automatically reinstated for U.S. beef products. Even with all of the attention focused on the U.S. cattle industry this year and what we were able to accomplish in this spotlight, one of the more memorable moments of the year happened in May, when member leaders of the American Farm Bureau Federation, the National Cattlemen's Beef Association, the National Farmers Union, RCAF USA, and USCA met in Phoenix, Arizona. These groups convened at the request of the Livestock Marketing Association to discuss challenges involved in the marketing of finished cattle, with the ultimate goal of bringing about a more financially sustainable situation for cattle feeders and cow-calf producers. The groups identified 3 action items to pursue through regulatory and legislative action. Those are: expedite the renewal of USDA's livestock mandatory reporting program, including formula-based prices subject to the same reporting requirements in negotiated cash, and the creation of a contract library. Demand the Department of Justice issue a public investigation status report and, as warranted, conduct joint DOJ and USDA oversight of packer activity moving forward. And 3, encourage investment in and development of new independent local and regional packers. USCA members dedicate their own time, money, and resources to ensure that producers have a seat at every table where the beef and cattle industry is being discussed. Without our voice, there would be nobody to push back against the strong lobbying arm of the Big Four meat packers. And without your support, we cease to exist. Visit uscattlemen.org and become a member for $100 a year. It's a small price to pay to help us keep a strong and effective presence for U.S. cattle producers in Washington, D.C.